Hi, and welcome to Starwell Astrology. My name is Sharrie. I am a tropical Western astrologer, and I specialize in shadow work. Today, I have someone who's been doing shadow work with me for a number of months now, and we're going to talk about her experience with shadow work. This is Natasha. Welcome, Natasha. Thank you for joining me
Thank
today.
you. Thanks, Sherry. Hi. Happy to be here.
I'm glad that you're willing to do this. This is so important. You can share your experience with, having doing shadow work now since I think it was April you started. Am I correct? March, April?
I think so. Yeah, time flies. I can't even keep track, but I think it was just the beginning of April,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
second week. Yeah, true.
Okay. So the number one question is then why did you decide you wanted to do shadow work? What made you
Um,
choose
well,
that?
I've done therapy for several years, on and off since I think I was about 22, maybe. And I noticed that it hasn't really gotten me to where I want to be or where I think I should be in the sense of like emotions, self-worth, self-value. And so it was time, I think it was time to do something that seemed a little bit deeper. Well, this was a lot more deeper and yeah, very good. Really, I gained a lot of insights to things where I never even thought about or different ways of looking at things that I hadn't thought of before. So
Yeah. And when you
it
say
was
therapy,
very helpful.
you mean like traditional therapy.
Traditional therapy, yeah.
And you've been doing this for how long? You said since your 20s?
Yeah, since my 20s. Well, I was a young mom and I think I kind of had a slight um a case of maybe postnatal depression, but I wasn't sure. But yeah.
Mhm.
So I started early with it and not constant, then I'd stop again and then I started because the thing with mainstream therapy is that the first thing they want to do, at least here in Holland, is get you on that Prozac, on the
Oh,
anti depressant medicine. And I'm like, well, is my happiness supposed to be in a pill? And then yeah, it just
yeah.
didn't.
Yeah, well, you have that Virgo stellium, so that's not going to work for you. You need some holistic way of definitely taking care of yourself.
True, all that 6 hours energy.
Yep, yep. So, what would you say your experience with shadow work is overall? And then we'll try to break it down in a more specific way.
Well, I think the difference is that I was really ready for it because probably if I weren't really open to it, it would be more intense. But it was confrontational in exactly the right way. Like I really needed to face up to certain things, and so for me, I was ready for it. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like it didn't hit me, it didn't knock me out, say, but
Yeah.
it was exactly what I needed. Yeah,
And that's an important point is that this is not for everyone. And there's a certain type of readiness that's required. As much as I'd
yeah,
love to say everyone can do shadow work, to be honest, if you're not ready, at least to do the shadow work that I'm talking about, um, you there has to be like a certain openness or a certain type of fatigue at suffering over the same
yeah,
thing over and over again, where you get to the
yeah,
point I'm ready to do something radically different, even if it's
exactly.
uncomfortable and painful. Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
If you want the traditional therapy of either the pill or just like, let me just talk about my feelings, then this type of shadow work is not for you.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
So that being said, how did you find this challenging? Was it challenging in any way, and what were the challenges, if there was any?
Well, I wouldn't say, for me, it was challenging in the sense where you had to relive certain things and really go deep into it. But at the same time, I was ready for it. So that made it, I was less hesitant to do it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was really open to gaining the insights but not in a way where you're like, oh, I need an answer, I need an answer. It was more like just focus on something and like I do it while I was walking and so it would just kind of flow to me. So it went kind of naturally, but I think the just being ready for it, it was like the right time, it was the perfect timing. I think that makes a difference also.
Yes, and to add to that, that's exactly what I'm saying. When you're ready for this work, it's not going to be as intense as you might imagine because it's really a matter of just staying open to the answers that come to you. The most difficult part is accepting that there's something that you need to pay attention to. You know,
Yeah,
whatever that heaviness is that you want to push down, you have to allow yourself to recall that it does exist as a part of you,
yeah,
not to wallow in it, but just to make it come to the surface. And then
yeah,
to go for that walk or whatever, you just kind of stay open to whatever answers wants to come through. And it does come through to you. And it's not dark and heavy. It's usually like it has a lot of resonance in it.
yeah. True. And interesting you say that, like it's not something that you end up wallowing in then. Like you get your insight and you've been in it, but it's easy to just carry on with your day because you're doing it throughout your day anyway. It's just, yeah, you get an insight and you don't stay in a negative emotion. That surprised me, but that was also really positive. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the misunderstandings is that they think if you open Pandora's box and all the skeletons come out, that they're going to follow you around all day long. But in fact, they have been. It's just that now you're in
Yeah,
a
now you're aware.
suppressed way.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
that now
so
you're more
true.
aware that those skeletons have been following you around. It's just that you've been numbing them down. And now you'll be
Exactly.
to integrate them as a part of you. Like, okay, this did happen, and me facing it doesn't make it any worse or better. It's just an awareness that it
Yeah,
exists. And now that I'm conscious of it, okay, how much power am I going to let this have over me?
exactly. And that does make it better when you're aware of it in that sense. Yeah.
And so the next question is, how doable was the practice? Which I think we sort of, and let's just say it again, because for those
Yeah.
watching, you kind of need to hear it again and again and again. That's the thing with this, it's so repetitive. So how
Yeah.
doable was the practice for you?
It was very doable because, as you said, it's stuff that follows us around anyway. Subconsciously, you're busy with it on the background in the form of negative self-talk. And now
Mhm.
it's like you're just becoming aware of what you're actually already saying anyway. And that's really good because it makes you really start to notice the effect that your thoughts, the way you talk to yourself, have on you. And yeah, it changes and it's gradual. It's a gradual process, but it's yeah. I mean, I've only been doing this for a few months, and I've noticed a huge change already. So it's not that gradual, come to think of it, but it's
Yeah,
something to get used to.
yeah. I think it's more like a quantum shift. Like today you see it one way, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, why was I thinking that?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
why? Yeah,
true.
that's what I call a quantum shift. And speaking of that, I just want to explain what you've been doing is called what I call self-witnessing, where you're present to what you're doing throughout the day, as present as possible as you can be to what you're doing, but especially thinking throughout the day. So by doing this, she started to notice herself, her negative self-talk, where before you know it's there, but you're not really giving
Yeah,
it any weight. It's sort of like, but now you realize that, wait a minute, there is a part of me that does have a negative self-talk that is actually impacting me, and in ways that it has for so long that you've gotten used to it. It's sort of like
yeah,
it's just something I do or think about. It's not really a thing. And
yeah,
bring it to your awareness by self-witnessing, by practicing being aware of what you're thinking and feeling, you become more conscious of how often this is repeating itself. It's like a cycle.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
So
really
true.
crazy how affected we are by this, and this is your conditioned thought your conditioned thought patterns that keep repeating themselves in cycles, and
Yeah.
so much a part of who you think you are that you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, you're so used to it, you think that you are those thoughts, but you're not.
Key point. And that's
Yeah.
the other thing, is that a lot of us think that we are what we're thinking.
Yeah.
And no, you're not. And you're not what you're feeling either, because there's a part of you that can be aware of what you're thinking and feeling. So the part of you that is aware is noticing the thinking and the feeling. And it's
Yeah.
not exactly thinking and feeling those things, it's just aware. It's an awareness. So what are you? The awareness. You're not so much the thinking and the feeling. You just
No,
want to identify with them because that's what we're taught, is that
exactly.
and feeling is you. It's not. It's a wave. It comes and goes. And
True.
we jump on the wave all day long and let it take us for a ride.
Yeah.
And the way to break the
Unfortunately.
cycle is to become conscious, is that I'm on the wave.
Yeah.
So so let me see. If how practical is it to continue to do the shadow work?
It's, I think it's pretty practical, very doable because you can still do your day-to-day stuff. It's well, unless I'm really concentrating for work, but yeah, then you're busy with something else. But meanwhile, you're doing whatever, you're washing the dishes, you're cooking. It's something that doesn't really cost any extra effort because you're just paying attention to what's going on anyway. So for
Mhm.
me, it was really doable.
And so it can become a way of life.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's not something that you do now and for 5 months and then you stop. It's a way of life. You continue to do this practice. And
Yeah.
the more that you're able to stay present to yourself and what you're thinking and feeling, is the more you're able to make them conscious and then bring them forward for healing.
Yeah.
So and you did a fantastic job at this. You dug deeper than most would be willing to dig. And I always say, get the results based on on the work you're willing to do. And so the deeper you go, the better the results. And you
Yeah.
certainly did, and have been, and still continue to, because it's a bottomless pit.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something. And I was surprised with the stuff that came up, things that I thought, well, yeah, I'm not gonna get into that, but no, it's good. It's good to.
So, so in what way have you changed, would you say?
I think I've become way more confident, like the fact that I'm even doing this now. I've started my own YouTube channel. I'm like, who is this person? But it's good. I'm more able to say what I think about certain things where as before I'd be more like, I can't say that because what will people think about me? What, yeah, now I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna say it. If they don't like it, then that's okay. I'm still good. And it's not that I've become confrontational or anything. I'm still me. I'm just
Mhm.
more willing to, yeah, stand up for myself in a very calm and quiet manner. Just yeah, just like this,
Yeah.
without, yeah, no confrontation or anything.
And would you say that your own self-worth and values have grown from doing this practice?
I think so for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I did also with the GSR that I did one session that helped also. I know you also do GSRs. I'm not sure if you're offering that service, but I definitely recommend that to anyone also.
Yeah, well, I don't do GSR myself as for clients on myself, but not for clients. But yes, that is a very useful practice, especially
Yeah,
when used with shadow work.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So maybe it's
mhm.
something you should consider because I'm sure you'd be really good at it.
I know we talked about that, but I'm like, I don't know. I think I have enough on my plate. And shadow work is actually plenty to get you going anyway, too.
It
And
is. It
I think
is.
it's important that you start with it too, so you really have a good understanding of yourself. And this is
Yeah.
about getting to know yourself. And a lot of times we think when we get to know ourselves, it's about getting to know our personality. And shadow work is deeper than that, because what you're getting in contact with is the part of you that actually your soul is the part of you that is aware and present and conscious. And so it's a higher level of consciousness than your actual personality. So that awareness is your consciousness, and you become conscious and aware that that is really who you are, but you're allowing the little identity, the ego part of you to run the
The
show.
ego, yeah. Yeah.
And the minute you become aware of it enough, it's not so much in control of you as it once was. So now you have the confidence to do things that you probably wouldn't have done before.
Would definitely not. So yeah, no, I'm sold for sure. I think I would recommend shadow work to anyone. Well, I do recommend it for sure.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, you preempted my question because I was going to say before we close, what would you say, or how would you, or would you recommend this to other people? But you've already said it, so you want to
Yeah,
add anything else to that? That's fine. You
yeah.
know,
No, I think it's because it's so much deeper than regular therapy. The therapy is so surface level that it doesn't really get to the core of the problem, so it persists. And I know because I've done therapy for years and years, and so is my daughter. And yeah, I think shadow work, because it goes so much deeper, and it's like what we said, a way of life. It's way more effective, and you become aware in a different sense. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend it.
and also it's very empowering for you. She's not depending on me, to give her answers, because you're learning to empower yourself to get your own
Yeah,
answers.
yeah,
And because I can't give it to her anyway, she has to search deep inside, and not the logical linear answer that comes from the little cycle that the mind is making around thoughts. It's more like opening up and allowing something deeper, something more higher and spiritual to come through and give
yeah,
a true answer that
yeah,
resonates with you and is so on point that you can't even deny it.
exactly. And it's funny the way that it comes through, because it's like you just get an insight, or like something pops into your head and you're like, whoa, that's what it is. Or you'd be walking, or maybe you're listening to the radio and something comes up and that's your answer. It just resonates. You know it's your answer. So it comes up in different ways, but it does come if you're open to it, as long as you're not holding on to what is the reason, what is the reason. You've got to let it. Yeah, you ask, why is this happening, or what's the meaning of this, and you kind of just let it go, and it comes. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And by the way, that does come easier for you because you're a tarot card reader, so you do have access to staying open to the spiritual realms and allowing them to speak to you. And that is a big part of doing this work. But just because you do have practice with it doesn't mean that everyone else doesn't have access to this in themselves, because we're all born this way. We are
Yeah,
all
we
divine
all
beings.
have.
We're all connected to spirit. We're just out of touch with that. And also, we're not used to trusting the guidance that first, we're not even used to hearing it. And then
Yeah,
if we do hear it, we don't trust it. We override it with the little,
exactly. With the logic. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, logical mind.
And if we can learn to just stay open to what it has to say to us and then follow whatever information it has or steps that you need to take for guidance, then our lives open up in ways that we never expected. And it's always in alignment with what's right for you. It's
Yeah,
never not right for you. So,
I believe that for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered enough. Anything else you want to add before I close?
Nothing pops. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you for
No
sharing
problem.
your
Happy to be here.
yeah, for sharing your experience with shadow work. I really appreciate you joining me, and for those who
Thank
watched,
you.
thank you. Thank you.